Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 31st. The Blue Jays signed Max Scherzer. The Rays signed Ha-Seong Kim. The Reds make some moves and lots more. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? We are one day away from February and just a modest 20 days away from the first spring training game. There's still a lot to talk about and a lot of free agency still left on the table. He'll be talking about that towards the end of the episode here. We've got a big one. We've got plenty of signings that happened this week. Nothing too major, but some interesting moves happening for some teams, and we're going to be talking about that and diving right on into it. So with that being said, let's get things started with the man of the episode here. Max Scherzer is heading north of the border. He is signing a one-year $15.5 million deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, who is slowly trying to crawl their way back into becoming a contender, I guess, if you want to talk about it like that. Max Scherzer, if you don't know the name, I don't know what you're doing on this video in this episode of this podcast, because it surrounds baseball, and if you know anything about baseball, you know who Max Scherzer is. The guy is a stud and a future Hall of Famer. The 3-time Cy Young Award winner, the 8-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion, will find his way to his 7th team in his big league career. Of course, 7 years in Washington, 5 years in Detroit, 2 in Arizona, which is where he got his start from. Then the Mets, Dodgers, and Texas is where he just was in 2023. Of course, he signed with the Mets in 2022, got traded in 2023 to Texas, and then last year was his full year in Texas. And of course, I say full, but it really wasn't, because he wasn't really healthy at all in his time in Texas. In total, in the end of 2023 as well as 2024 combined, that 1.5 year really with Texas, he was 6-6, a 3.57 ERA, and only pitched in 17 games. Only made 17 starts, 88 innings, and 93 strikeouts. So, look, obviously Scherzer's not the guy he once was. You look at all those All-Stars and you look at all of those fantastic years that happened in the 2010s, 2013 to 2020, 2021 even. You want to put that with Washington. Those were his years, his glorious days with Washington. I mean, when he signed with them in 2015, when he became a National, he became Max Scherzer. He was a stud from that point on. Of course, he did have that one incredible year in Detroit in 2013 where he was a Cy Young Award winner for the first time. And then back-to-back Cy Young winners in 2016 and 2017. He was phenomenal. Led pitchers in WAR those years. His ERA 2.51, 2.96, 2.53. Just incredible years. And not to mention his high strikeouts. 284 leads the league in 2015. 268 led the league in 2017. He had 300 strikeouts in 2018. So some incredible numbers there, but of course, not the same Scherzer. He's old. He is, not the healthiest these days. He's going to be age 40 in 2025, entering his 18th year in the big leagues. And, for the Blue Jays, they've done a lot recently. We talked about the offseason. They've been a huge part of the conversations that we've had, them being in on Soto and Roki and Max Fried and Corbin Burns and all these other free agents that they've missed out on. The month of January has been pretty nice to them. We've had a couple episodes here, the last 3 or 4 episodes. We've been talking a lot of Toronto recently because they've been in a lot of the news. From missing out on all these free agents early on in the offseason, they've come out strong. They've gotten Jeff Hoffman the first week. They lost out on Roki, but then they brought in Anthony Santander last week, and then this week they're bringing in Max Scherzer. And to my knowledge, and to what the people say on the Tele TV, the Blue Jays aren't done yet. And realistically, when you look at their team now, the pitching is nice. I have to admit, looking now at the rotation with Kevin Gausman, Barrios, Bassett, Max Scherzer kind of slots in nicely there into the 4th slot, and then Bowden Francis rounds it out right now. Of course, Manoah will be dealing with Tommy John or his recovery from injury, so he won't be around until I think around the All-Star break. So he'll miss most of the season there. But if Max Scherzer can hold his own, it's a nice rotation there. The bullpen with Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia, Chad Green, Swanson, Nick Sandlin they've picked up, and we talked about the lineup, and we talked about Springer and Vladdy and Bichette and what's going to happen with those two. I mean, the Blue Jays have had a bad offseason, but they've slowly started to turn it around, and realistically there's two big bats kind of left in the market, being Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso. If the Blue Jays pick up one of those, and if they can maybe extend Vladdy in the little bit of time they have left, I mean, you're going to talk about the Blue Jays having a successful offseason. They need to extend Vladdy, though, for that to happen, and I think they're one more bat away. I mean, you have Will Wagner, who was good at the end of the year there. He's slotted into the lineup right now. Ernie Clement, Alejandro Kirk, Andres Jimenez, the guys who are at the bottom of the lineup right now. In center field, they still have Nathan Lucas, of course, and they have Davis Schneider, who knows what kind of season he might have. So I think the Blue Jays are still removed from a guy or two. I think bringing in Bregman would be ideal. If you bring in Pete Alonso, then you kind of a first base holdup with Vladdy and him splitting between playing and DHing. So an interesting conversation still to be had. And of course, like I said at the beginning, free agency is very close. Spring training, is very close to happening. So it's an interesting signing here. Of course, Max Scherzer, a great pitcher in his heyday. What can he provide for the Blue Jays this year? And what kind of season will Blue Jays have? Will they be last in the division? Will they be fighting for second? Plenty of questions up in the air, so we'll have to wait and see how the J season ends up cracking along here. Continuing on now, let's talk about the Rays, because they made a move to sign Ha-Seong Kim to a 2-year deal worth $29 million. Now, of course, Ha-Seong Kim, he's not going to be healthy at the beginning of the season. He's going to be missing opening day. Should be ready for about mid-May to late May, I think, is what the reports were saying. He came over from the KBO back in 2021 and spent 4 years with the Padres. And let me tell you, those 4 years, pretty good. Not an all-star, did win a Gold Glove in 2023, but in total, in his 4 years, he's already accumulated 15.3 WAR points. He's played 540 games. He's got 418 hits. He's got 47 home runs. He's driven in 200 RBIs, an OPS of 706. And I mean, like I said, he's not anything too eye-popping offensively, but his defense is there, and of course it's not like his hitting is a liability either. He's an overall sound player, and I think he's going to fit nicely in the Tampa Bay scheme here. Good for the Rays to shut out some money. I know they've been kind of quiet this offseason. They haven't done anything too drastic to improve their team, really. They signed Danny Jansen to play catcher. They brought in Eloy Jimenez on a minor league deal. And so the guys there are pretty much the same. Of course, they have a youngish team led by guys like Yanni Diaz and Brandon Lau. They've got Junior Camareno, who had an outstanding home run over this past week here. If you guys missed that, check it out. What a game that was. Of course, they trade for Christopher Morel last year, and they have Josh Lowe, Johnny DeLucas at the bottom there. So they've got guys, and of course, their rotation's been the question mark. Who's healthy, who won't be. But if they have the guys, I mean, Shane McClanahan is an ace, is a stud. Taj Bradley, Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen, Zach Lytle, and that bullpen is just as good as well. So the Rays could still have a good team here and a good 2025, depending on how their season goes as well. The AL East is always just kind of a dogfight, and eventually by May you kind of see which teams are actually going to be in the dogfight and which teams are just kind of playing around in the mud. But when the gates open and the season starts, I mean, any one of those 5 teams can really make a case for the division. So that's always interesting to see here. But the Rays spend some money. They bring on Ha-Seong Kim. If they can stay about 500 by May, by the time he gets back, I mean, that's a huge thing for Tampa Bay going forward here. And, of course, we don't know exactly how their season's going to roll, being one of the homeless teams in the MLB this year. But something to keep your mind out for as the season is getting close to being underway here. So yeah, Ha-Seong Kim joining the Rays. Now, moving on, let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds, because they have made quite a few moves this past week here. The big one for me here, and I will say that, before we even mentioned the big one, they were apparently in talks with the Chicago White Sox to acquire Luis Robert Jr. And if they did that, that would have been huge for Cincinnati and really made them look a lot different entering the year. But I guess the price tag was too high because they end up going for Austin Hayes here, signing a 1-year deal worth $5 million. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Austin Hayes. I think he's a great ball player. He's a one-time All-Star back in 2023. He had a great year, last year, and then this year he kind of struggled and he got traded. Baltimore has had a lot of guys come up for them, and just when you're not playing your best baseball, it kind of looked bad. And of course, he's been around since 2017, so contract expiring anyways. But yeah, last year as a whole, playing with Baltimore and Philly, played in 85 games, only 60 hits and a 699 OPS, so not the greatest of numbers there. A stellar defender, though, in 2021 to 2023, those 3 years, were very strong in his time in Baltimore. If you look at his entire 7-year career in Baltimore, he's got over 500 hits, over 60 home runs, over 240 RBIs, and a career OPS of 747 with almost 10 points of WAR. So he's been a good ball player. I think he still has it in him. I think he's just lacking some confidence right now and needs to figure it out. But I think it's a nice fit for Cincinnati, and I'm excited to see him play with the Cincinnati Reds here. But that's not the only move they made. They also acquired Wade Miley on a minor league deal. They bring him back, and of course, Wade Miley, interesting picture, and he's been around the league for a long time, so excited to see what he gets up to. But on top of that, they also made a trade with the San Francisco Giants. They're acquiring Taylor Rogers from San Francisco in exchange for right-handed pitcher Braxton Roxby, heading San Fran's way. But Taylor Rogers is a great pitcher. He's got a unique delivery, if you may. He's been in the league for a long time now. He's coming up on his 10th year already. A lot of that time is spent in Minnesota when he debuted in 2016. He got his All-Star nod in 2021, and that was his last year with Minnesota. Signed with the Padres in 2022, got traded that year to the Brewers, and then the last 2 years in 2023 and 2024, he's been with the San Francisco Giants. He's gotten the chance to play with his twin brother, and last year was a stellar year for Taylor Rogers. A 2.4 ERA in 64 appearances out of the bullpen, 60 innings of work, 64 strikeouts, only gave up 7 home runs and 16 earned runs. So a solid year for the 33-year-old, now going to be 34 and joining his 5th team and staying in the NL here. I think Rogers is a nice fit for Cincinnati as well. Kind of a setup guy there for Alexis Diaz. They've got Emilio Pagan in that bullpen as well. Brent Suter, Graham Ashcraft is an interesting guy as well. You take a look at that rotation. You got Hunter Green and Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez. In that lineup, Ali De La Cruz, Tyler Stevenson, McClann, TJ Friedel, Spence Steer, Yaimer Candelario. They trade for Gavin Lux, as mentioned, now Austin Hayes. So the Reds are going to be a very interesting team. It's basically, can their young kids keep developing, and can they have a strong start? The Brewers and the Cubs are always going to be kind of around and a problem there. The Pirates with Paul Skeens, who knows what kind of season they'll have, but the Reds are going to be interesting entering 2024, and if everything starts clicking for them, if they can stay healthy, they've got a chance to go pretty far this year. So keep an eye on Cincinnati. I kind of like their upside here for 2025 here, but those are a couple moves that they made, and their team is looking better and better as the day goes by. So keep that in mind here. As we continue on with the episode here, let's talk about some relief pitchers that signed this past week, because we've got a handful of guys, and speaking of relief pitchers, not all of them were signing. One was traded, and that was Ryan Presley, as he heads from the Houston Astros to the Chicago Cubs in exchange for Juan Bello, a starting pitcher prospect that heads the Houston Astros way. Of course, Presley comes with cash because his contract is no joke, and after last year, it's a bit of a gamble for the Cubs. It wasn't a bad year, to say the least, but of course, course, Ryan Pressly, been around the league for a long time. People forget he was a Minnesota Twin when he debuted all the way back in 2013. He's been a solid pitcher his whole career. In 2018, he made the move to Houston, and he's been with them for the last 7 years. He spent his whole career either as a Twin or as an Astro, and the Cubs here are going to be the third team, and the first time he's in the NL. Two-time All-Star, won those with the Astros in 2019 and 2021. Career ERA of 3.24, 239 appearances. Excuse me, 200, whoa, that's when I said 200, 623 games played. He's have 693 strikeouts, and he's pitched 650 innings of work, as mentioned, a 35-36 record in his 12-year career, a 10.1 career WAR points. Ryan Pressly, very good pitcher. Last year had some ups and downs, but he kind of figured it out towards the end of the season. Of course, last year was the first time in a while that he wasn't the closing pitcher. In 2020, he kind of got that role in Houston, recorded 12 saves there. The next year, his other All-Star appearance, had 26 saves. 2022, he had 33 saves, and then 2023, he had 31 saves. Of course, the Astros signed Josh Hader last year, so that's obviously, why he wasn't closing any more games. He still made 4 saves in his 59 appearances, but a 3.5 ERA is still nothing to be upset about. He still had a strong year, and the Cubs will see what they can milk out of him here for 2025. I think he's going to be the closer in Chicago. I'm trying to think of their bullpen off the top of my head, and there's not any names that come to my mind, so I believe Ryan Pressly should take over the closer role in Chicago, and Chicago's put together a nice little team here, so 2025 could be their year. On to the other relief pitchers here. Carlos Estevez is signing a 2-year deal worth $22.2 million with the Kansas City Royals. I believe he will be their closer there as well. I can't think of anybody else. And he had a very strong year with the Phillies last year. Of course, he started out in LA with the Angels and then got traded at the deadline. But in total, between the Angels and Phillies in 2024, he had a 2.45 ERA with 54 games played and 26 saves. He had 55 innings of work, striking out 50 batters, and only gave up 5 home runs on the year. Very nice numbers. Of course, he was an All-Star with the Angels in 2023. And before that, spent his whole career kind of with the Rockies. So not ideally where you want to pitch if you're a pitcher. Really, you don't want to be in Colorado in that Coors. But since moving on from Colorado, he's been a lot better of a team here, of a pitcher. In his last 2 years here, not with the Rockies, he's got a 3.22 ERA, 117 games, a 9-10 record, and 57 saves. 128 strikeouts. He's been, very good and consistent. And I mean, that ERA of 3.22 is a lot better than his whole career, where he has a 4.21 ERA, and of course 4.59 in his 6 years in Colorado. Some good numbers there, but recently, these last couple of seasons, has been more Estevez's year, and he heads to his 4th team in the Royals to try to help them in the return to the postseason like they did last year. Speaking of an AL Central team trying to return to the postseason, the Tigers are signing Tommy Kahnle to their bullpen this year. It's a 1-year deal worth $7.75 million. So Royals make an addition to the bullpen. The Tigers follow, of course. Their bullpen, the way A.J. Hinch used them, is a huge reason as to why they made the postseason in the first place. That, and of course, Tarek Skubal. But Jason Foley's back there, Tyler Holton, Will Vest, some of the guys come off the top of the dome here. But Tommy Kahnle is a good relief pitcher. He will have some success there in Detroit, I feel like, and the way they've used, their relief staff. Last year, A.J. Hinch is one of the best when it comes to the bullpen usage. Last year, for Tommy Kahnle, a 2.11 ERA in 50 games. He had 5 home runs given up and had 46 strikeouts. Not really the strikeout kind of guy, but he makes a lot of weak contact. It gets you some quick and fast outs. That's what he's the best at, and that's what he'll be doing in Detroit this year. Of course, Kahnle's been with the Rockies. He's been with the White Sox. Spent some time with the Yankees before getting a chance to play for the Dodgers. Only played 13 games before heading back to the Yankees. He's been with them the last 2 seasons, and of course from 2017 all the way to 2020. So he's been a Yankee for most of his career, but now is heading to Detroit to be on his 5th team in his career, and seeing what he can do to help out these Tigers as they try to make it back to the postseason. 2 other relief pitchers I want to mention here. Tim Mayza is signing a 1-year deal with the Pirates worth $1.15, and Mayza, obviously back in the day, a lefty specialist, kind of came in, got one out, and his night was done. But as the rules changed, so did him, and he's actually been a very solid pitcher. But 2024 got away from him big time. You went from 2023 with the Blue Jays. He had a 1.52 ERA in 69 games. He was as stellar as they come, just an outstanding pitcher that year. And then last year, he lost it big time. In 35 games, the Blue Jays, his ERA was 8.03. From 1.52 to 8.03 was crazy. The Blue Jays ended up saying goodbye to him. He ended his way up on the New York Yankees team to try to help them in their postseason. But in 15 games, he had an ERA of 4, and it was just a season that got away from him. In total, he made 50 appearances to a 6.33 ERA, when the year before was his best year of his career with 1.52. So it'll be interesting to see how he rebounds here with the Pirates. Will he have kind of one of those seasons like he's had with the Blue Jays before, or is he past his prime and it's just going to be a tough season for him? It'll be interesting to see how he faces off with some of those lefties in the NL Central, guys like Christian Yelich and Kyle Tucker now at the Cubs. So something to keep your mind for. But Mayza, he's been a solid pitcher for most of his career. His win-loss ratio is impeccable, 20-9. 20 wins, 9 losses, a 3.88 ERA in over 360 appearances. He's got over 300 strikeouts. So yeah, a solid relief pitcher there, solid lefty for the Pirates, and I like Tim Mayza, so good for him. And hopefully he has a strong year with the Pirates. And the last relief pitcher signing that happened is a minor league deal, but I want to talk about it in a little bit here because of how interesting it is, because it's James Karinchak. We mentioned how the Dodgers got Giovanni Gallegos to a minor league deal and how good he had been in the early 2020s here, but Karinchak finished in 6th in Rookie of the Year voting with Cleveland in 2024. In the early part of his career, he was looking very solid and, kind of slipped away a little bit. We haven't really seen much of him in a while. Did not pitch in 2024. In 2023, though, he was pretty, solid, I guess. He had 44 appearances, a 3.23 ERA with the Guardians. His whole 5-year career from 2019 to 2023 has been with Cleveland, where he's 12-11, a 3.10 ERA, 174 games played. He's got 253 strikeouts, plays with a lot of emotion. So interesting to see what the White Sox, can get out of him if he makes a team. I assume he will. I think he is a good relief pitcher when right. The only problem is in 2024 he wasn't right, and that's why he didn't play. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what the White Sox can get out of Karinchak here. He'll be entering his age 29 season, I believe. So something is to keep your mind out for there as well, as he heads to the Chicago White Sox. Also wanted to mention that Ryan Brazier was DFA'd by the Dodgers. Of course, that was bound to happen because with their signings, eventually you run out of options and you run out of players to get rid of. So how do you make moves? You eventually got to start DFAing guys. And Ryan Brazier, he's been a solid pitcher for the Dodgers for a long time now, and I'm assuming some team will pick him up here very quickly or make a trade for him with the Dodgers. So Brazier DFA'd. He'll be moving on from the Dodgers. And of course, I guess some fans might be be unhappy to see him walk away. But of course, when you're bringing in guys like Roki and bringing back Teoscar and Blake Snell, I mean, I don't think they're caring too much about Ryan Brazier. So unfortunate stuff there for Brazier, but he will land on his feet for sure. He's been very solid for the Dodgers in the 2020s here. Moving on here, let's talk about some of the position players that signed. There's a few guys and a few players to mention here. Starting with Jorge Polanco, who's re-signing with the Mariners, a one-year deal worth $7 million. Of course, Polanco spent 10 years with the Twins, and a solid 10 years those were. Last year is his first time on a different team. It was with Seattle, and not the strongest first year with a team. He had 89 hits, played in 118 games, a 6.51 OPS, and only 16 home runs. So definitely struggled for Polanco. We've seen players struggle with Mobile Park. It's not really the best park for hitters. But, the Mariners will kind of hope that another year there will help him out and help him kind of reform. He's had a lot of success with Minnesota. He's been a solid player. He's been an all-star before. So hopefully Polanco can kind of rebound and have a strong 2025 in his second year with Seattle. Worst case scenario, maybe a trade candidate there for the Mariners. So something to keep your eye. Of course, switch hitter as well. So Polanco, big upside there for Seattle. Adam Frazier is heading back to the Pirates, a one-year deal with $1.53 million. I say back like he was there last year. He wasn't, but he started his career in Pittsburgh. In 2016, he was a Pirate, and he stayed a Pirate all the way till 2021, the best season of his career, where he was an all-star and had a successful first half with the Pirates. He was so good, an 8.36 OPS. Of course, the Pirates were not, so they dealt him to the Padres, and since then it's been 1 year, one team for him going forward. He spent the rest of the half season there with San Diego before signing a 1 year deal with the Mariners, then signed a 1 year deal with Baltimore, and then last year a 1 year deal with the Royals. Now it's another 1 year deal, but he's heading back to Pittsburgh, back to where his roots all began. His year in Seattle in 2022 was pretty successful, had 129 hits. But of course, his 6 years in Pittsburgh, he's got over 500 hits, so it'll be good to see him back in the yellow. I'm sure fans are happy for that as well, because the last time he was in Pittsburgh, like I said, he was an all-star, and that's pretty, a big deal for the Pirates, of course, and he'll be playing second base behind Paul Skeens for some games, and that's always exciting. His year with Kansas City, he played 104 games. He had about 53 hits. He had 4 home runs, a 576 OPS. So, not a successful year really as a hitter, but his defense is still, strong enough to hold him over. He's going to be 33, entering his 10th year in the big league. So all the best for Adam Frazier. I hope he has a successful year down with the Pirates again. And I mean, that NL Central could be very, very interesting once again here in 2025. So Adam Frazier back with the Pirates after 4 years, 4 teams, jumping from San Diego to Seattle to Baltimore to Kansas City, and now is back where he belongs with the Pirates. Moving on here, Dylan Carlson is signing a 1 year deal worth $975,000 with Baltimore. They couldn't even give him $1 million, that extra $25K. Of course, Carlson was supposed to be a saving grace for St. Louis. Debuting in the COVID year in 2020. He got his first chance at Rookie of the Year in 2021, where he finished third. Had a strong year that year, and to be honest, that's been his best year of his career. Since then, it's been a little bit of a downhill each and every other year. His OPS went from 780 in 2021. That was the year he finished third in Rookie of the Year, to 695 the next year, then 651 the year after that, and last year, spending time with both St. Louis and Tampa Bay, it's now at 563. His hitting has just struggled at the big league level here, and he was pretty bad all year long. Ended up playing 96 games with both St. Louis and Tampa Bay combined here. He had 49 hits and only 3 home runs, and for St. takes here. In 2021, he had 18 home runs and only had 3 last year. In total, in his 5-year career now, he's had 37 home runs. Take away the 18 there, and I mean, it's been a tough go of things. It's the only year he's hit over 10 home runs in a year. And, Baltimore is going to be kind of using him as a backup outfielder there, kind of to help guys the day off here and there. And if they can get anything out of him and try to fix him up, obviously that's the ideal there for Baltimore. But, Dylan Carlson just hasn't been able to make the adjustments at the big league level, and that's going to cost him potentially a big league career here. I mean, this could be the last year that we see of this guy if he just continues to struggle. So something to keep in mind out there for. Let's see what kind of season Dylan Carlson can have, and hopefully it's a step in the right direction for his sake, because the switch hitter could be on his last lifeline here. So something there to kind of just seep in the head a little bit. The last signing that happened, the last one that I think I found that is worth talking about, Elias Diaz is re-signing back up with the San Diego Padres, a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. Was, of course, a tough career at the start of it with Pittsburgh. You don't really know this guy. And then in 2020, he becomes a Rocky, and in 2023, he was an All-Star. He had a strong year. He was the All-Star MVP, for crying out loud. Of course, from that point on, in 2024, didn't have the greatest start with Colorado. Got traded to San Diego, or had been with San Diego. I don't think he got traded. I think he got released, and then they signed him. Only ended up playing 12 games with the Padres. Four hits in 24 at bats. Batting average of 190 wasn't great, but 720 OPS because he had a home run. It's an interesting, move here, backup catcher, I guess, for Luis Campusano. Obviously, in those 12 games, there was enough of a click and a vibe there that they thought it was a strong decision to bring him back. So Elias Diaz heading back to the Padres for his 11th year in the big leagues. 5 years in Pittsburgh, 5 years in Colorado. This is his second year in San Diego. Is going to be a little bit more of that, or what's the deal here? But either way, the All-Star is staying with the Padres, 1 year, $3.5 million. And that is all the signings that happened this past week. Not all the news in the baseball scene, though. Of course, top MLB game, everyone's favorite. MLB The Show is, we get to that point where it's time to start talking about MLB The Show 25 for all of you video game heads out there. And this past week, they revealed the cover athlete, or should I say cover athletes, because not only is it one guy, it's actually 3 faces of the franchises and some new faces of the game. From Baltimore, they brought in Gunnar Henderson. From the Reds, they showed up with Ellie De La Cruz, and for the Pirates, Paul Skeens. So the future is here, the stars of today, tomorrow. Gunnar, Skeens, and Ellie will be great. The cover looks fantastic. If you have not seen it, if you play the game and for some reason you had a busy week, you just missed it, take a look at it because it's exciting. MLB The Show is always one of those games where it's an on and off relationship that I have with it, but I always find myself coming back to it. I'm excited to be playing that game again once it comes out. Three covers is better than one, I would say. Vladdy was a great cover last year, and I think these 3 together are going to be very exciting for 2025 here. And that kind of brings us to the end here. I mean, there's not really, much else happening, I guess, in today's episode here. I think we're going to wrap it up here. But like I said, we're in the last 3, weeks here. We're getting to the point where, hey, by the way, all pitchers and catchers report in I think 2 weeks even, and then February 20th, Dodgers and Cubs start spring training games. So I mean, we're talking about less than a month, less than 3 weeks before the first spring training game, and there's still plenty of free agents that can make or break a team here. And I mean, you got Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, Jack Flaherty, Jose Iglesias, Andrew Heaney, Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell, veteran relief pitchers, JD Martinez, John Means, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Finnegan. That's only off the top of my head here. I mean, there's plenty of relief pitchers still. David Robertson, Patrick Corbin, is he going to make a deal anywhere? Nick Pivetta had a strong year with Boston. Randall Grichuk. Like there's some guys here, and of course some of these guys are like they've had struggles and they're not, the same guys they once were. Some of these guys are old. Justin Turner is 40. Is he going to get a deal? Ross Stripling is 35. I mean, he had a tough year in Oakland last year, but he's still, he's probably still got a little bit in the tank there. Mark Canha is 36. What's in it for him? Ramon Laureano is still around at age 30. Brendan Rodgers at age 28. Rockies aren't bringing him back. Is someone going to sign him? Who knows? Clayton Kershaw is still technically a free agent at 37 years old. We've seen Justin Verlander sign. We've seen Max Scherzer sign. It's time to see Kershaw go, I guess. Verdugo, Kevin Pillar, is he retiring? I have no idea. Tim Hill, Cal Quantrill. Just a lot of guys who are memorable and who have been in the league, I feel like, for a long time. And to see them just hanging out here on the free agency list is just kind of weird. I mean, Adam Ottavino is 39, but he's still, a solid relief pitcher here. As mentioned, John Means, Whit Merrifield, David Peralta, Michael A. Taylor. I mean, some of these guys I want to see in 2025. I hope a team is going to be able to bring them on. Josh Stalmont, James McCann, a backup catcher potentially for some team. Joey Gallo's a free agent still. Who else is here? Like, I'm not even naming everybody here, but I'm naming the guys that come off the top of my dome. It's just like, wow, you're still around. Yuli Gurriel, of course, he could be 42. I think his career is done. Tommy Pham, Miguel Sano, who knows about that? Some of these guys struggle. Some of these guys are old. You can understand sometimes why. Nick Anderson, Rizzo is 35. Like, I feel like someone should take Rizzo, lefty bat there. He's got some pop still. Rowdy Tellez, he had a strong year with Pittsburgh. Maybe not the strongest, but I think he's still a nice backup first baseman for a team like Colorado. Even could have some success there. Nick Senzel, Nick Madrigal, Robbie Grossman, Jake Diekman still around, Adam Duvall, and I'm saying some of these names, and I'm like there has to be a way. Jose Abreu still technically on the thing, like Eddie Rosario. Noah Syndergaard is around. Daniel Bard, he's 40, but I don't know. There's still plenty of free agents in my mind. Of course, we mentioned those big ones at the top there: Bregman, Flaherty, Alonso, kind of like the big three that are going to get a contract really soon. So we'll have to wait and see. We still have a couple of weeks left, and then I don't know how I'm going to be able to juggle everything here. This year is going to be a very different year of the middle of the order here. Just a busy guy. What can I say? But anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much for sticking around for today's episode. Baseball is almost back, and that's the most exciting thing. We're gonna have baseball, and that's really exciting, guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much, and I will see you next time.